It is nice to be an All-American in April. Will be much better if these folks are All-Americans come December, but the playing performance and the potential is obviously there. For a couple Canes, we will discuss and much, much more what's going on in the practice field in Coral Gables right here on Miami Hurricanes Live, right here at the Voice of College Football. Cam Underwood's here, so we've got a show. That's what that means. And you can join Cam and the rest of the crew there at State of the U on SB Nation. Hey, Cam, what's going on tonight?
Hey man, not a whole lot. Glad to be back. Hopefully, we have a bunch of you with us, which is always, the point and plan. So thanks for coming and joining and spending some time with us. Again, I am Cam Underwood, managing editor of State of the U. So go on over and check that out. Come on over and fan with us. We have a lot of great stuff. Mike Schiffman has been leading our basketball coverage, so he has some postmortems and things coming. The women's team lost in the Elite Eight, and the men's team lost in the first game of the final, or their first game in the Final Four. It was the nightcap that first night. And credit to UConn. They did end up, continuing on to win the championship, but literally the worst offensive game of the year. I know some of that was, the defense, but they went 8 for 15 on layups and had one layup blocked. I mean, I know that they have, defensive interior defenders, but I mean, just shot after shot after shot, close, mid-range, even three-pointers that Miami made all year long. All run long, just didn't fall. It was the only game all season long that Miami scored fewer than 60 points. Ended up being the last game. So, again, credit to UConn. They're a very good team. Obviously, they're national champions. Obviously give them their credit. But also, man, we left a lot of meat on the bone. We left a lot of points on the floor there. I mean, it's to the point where Wooga Poplar got benched for the last 15 minutes because he was 0 of 7. He was negative 25 when he was on the floor in the game. So, we're talking about that. We'll have some things with that. There have been, some transfer announcements already from the basketball side of things. Anthony Walker, who was a fourth-year junior, is electing to move on, but he participated in senior day ceremonies at the end of the regular season, so that was expected. And then two of the freshmen, Favor Ire and Danilo Jovanovic, also both today announced in the last couple of days. Their intentions to transfer. So, it's going to be a different looking team. We'll see if there's any other guys. Hopefully, Christian Watson and Ja'Kai Robinson off the bench. Miami played a short rotation this year, so there really wasn't minutes for those guys. But if you've seen the development that has been seen by guys like an Isaiah Wong, who came in as a four-star recruit and ends up probably leaving as the ACC Player of the Year. He was the Player of the Year this year. I foresee him leaving. Hopefully those guys, Robinson and Watson, can have a similar kind of development. But we talk about that and all kinds of other stuff at stateoftheu.com. That's been your Miami Hurricanes Basketball Minute. Let's go on to football.
And in football, the Walter Camp Foundation is one of the pillars in terms of prestige in college football and has been for decades. And two Canes have been named to the Walter Camp Foundation's preseason 2023 All-America team. Cam Kinchens is a first-teamer, and Leonard Taylor is a second-teamer. So before we cut you loose here, Cam, the way I interpret this is Cam Kinchens delivered start to finish, was an All-American in every sense of the word, and that this is just a confirmation of that to say, hey, he delivered in 22. We see no reason why he won't be one of the best players on the defensive side of the ball in America again this year. There he is. Leonard Taylor, more of, we know what the potential is, but he's also flashed and been really good at times. And so he should be a great candidate to put it all together to be an All-American this fall.
I agree completely. I mean, Cam Kinchens was, everybody's All-American. If he wasn't first team on the ones that he got snubbed, which was ridiculous. Because I know that team success plays a result in kind of getting eyes, but if you just look at what he did on the field, he was one of the best, if not the best safety in America, hands down, based on performance on the field. But if he wasn't first team in most, then he was second team All-American. So, you take that and carry that over, he's proven and demonstrated that elite level of performance. So yeah, he's going to be first team All-American. It's going to be, when I think it's the early middle part of July when awards pre-ranking season drops, a watch list season and everything, bro, every one of those days it has, Yeah, every day for which a safety is eligible to be on insert list here, I foresee that being another. Hey, Cam Kinchens is CBS Sports preseason All American, SB Nation All American, The Athletic. I mean, just like that's what it's going to be because he's proven it. Leonard Taylor has flashed that performance. He was a 5-star recruit. Everybody in America wanted him, and like he can be incredibly dominant. He will wreck your opposing offenses best laid plans, single team, double team, triple team. You want to run play action, you want to run a run play, you want to quarterback run, you want to do a drop back pass. We've seen him be disruptive and ruin those plays. Now, the thing about it is, it's not every single down, right? He's not doing to the opposition what Ndamukong Suh did the year he should have won the Heisman. You know what I mean? Like, where it's just like, we're going to say hut and we're going to pray because this dude across the way, we cannot block him. There have been times that Taylor's been unblockable, but there's also been times when he's been imminently blockable. But he's a very talented player. He's, at a premium university. He has the pedigree of recruiting. So like people around the sport know the name, because like, even if he didn't go to Georgia, even if he didn't go to Michigan, even if he didn't go to Texas or USC or whoever, right? In that sphere, even those beat writers and people in those parts of the country, they know the name because some blogger, some recruiting writer, whomever was saying, hey, I want my team to get that kid. So it rings in there. And they saw he was a freshman All-American, so he did enough where he's still, in the zeitgeist, as it were. But yeah, he has more to prove in terms of, just in general performance and towards being an All-American than does Cameron Kinchens. But both of them, I think, are well earned going into this season, and we'll see exactly what their performances end up being. But again, this just talks to the elite level top line talent that's on the roster, even if it's only 2 guys who have gotten these mentions. But Tyler Van Dyke is working to restore his NFL draft pedigree because he was pretty. He was on the list for first round this time last year. You know what I mean? There's other guys on this roster who have shown elite talent as well. Even if they're not necessarily going to be first rounders, but like an Akeem Mesidor, I don't see why he can't be, a top 2-round draft pick, things like that. James Williams in a more natural position, hopefully a little closer to the line for him because he's a monster. But yeah, when you start with Kinchens and Taylor, it's that thing where, hey, we're going to look at this kid and we're going to watch that film, and then somebody else pops and somebody else pops. And that's kind of how you get that, the more eyes on your team is when you have those stars. And then, if Cameron Kinchens is the sun and these other stars are on the screen as he's doing whatever, then you have the ability to be seen and evaluated and improve your own draft stock as well. Or, just in general, reputation, as it were. So I think it's good. It's great, recognition for both of those guys. Obviously the story does not end here, but it's a great place to start.
I recall some media research a few years ago that I saw where, let's take for example ESPN Sports Center, where back in their heyday they were producing like 92 to 95% of their hour show was content, and only like 5 to 8% was promotional, and that's dwindled to like 65% content and 35% promotional. So we deliver like 99% content and 1% promotional. So bear with me for just a second. Do all the right things here, folks. Please hit the like button. Consider the super chat contribution for what we do here at the Voice of College Football, and Cam in particular. And share these videos out on social media. Call up a friend. You can text. You can talk to them directly, whatever your mode, social media and otherwise, to say, hey, this is a good time. College football fans, get on in here. Let's talk it up with Cam and Mark. We do have a couple contributions that we appreciate. So here we go. We've got Kyloren. Miami Kane. You know what? Someone corrected me on the syllabic interpretation that I have been attacking Kyloren's name with, and now I don't remember.
It's 2 names. It's Kylo Ren. It's from Star Wars.
Yes. Was that you or somebody else that corrected me on that?
I mean, I thought it. I don't know if I said
Okay.
it, but it was probably somebody else who brought it up. But yeah, it's Kylo Ren.
Okay. I will do my best. Kylo Ren. It's going to be very robotic for a while until it starts to flow. But we appreciate you being here. Ohio State, again, I think it must be the positioning of the super chats on the screen. I've got a smudge at that same spot. Go Canes. Thank you, Kylo Ren. And then coming back here, all we need is 320 defensive tackles and a wide receiver 1.
Yeah, I mean, like if in a perfect world, like yeah, just we get gigantic dudes who are big and strong and shockingly quick for a man that size. It would be great. And it'll be interesting because in just 10 days' time, I don't know if you saw this, but Nicole Auerbach of The Athletic brought this back to the forefront of my brain. But the second transfer portal window is from April 15th to 30th, I believe. So all these guys who've said that they're going into the portal after the first, closure and everything, which is saying, hey, I'm open for business, holla at me. And then, guys who are in the portal but have not found a landing spot, this is a time for them to do so, or will be. So I don't know that there are the perfect complement of players that Kylo Ren wants in terms of big, quick, penetrating defensive tackles and explosive wide receivers. But hopefully for all parties involved, the players and schools, they're able to find matches. So it'll be interesting coming up in just about a week and a half when that second portal window opens. So if you're waiting to see, hey, maybe there's somebody out here who wants to join, the myriad guys who have come down to Miami to play football for Mario Cristobal and company, just after next week's show. Keep your eyes peeled and stay tuned.
Ironically, we had a conversation on our Ohio State Live show the other day, right in line with what Mr. HD is bringing up, because I had no idea that Ohio State, I'm not a recruiting guy, that Ohio State was in the running for one Aaron Noland. Of course, I could then intelligently speak on the matter to a certain extent, although I leave my beat writers up to do their analysis, but I could at least chime in on the conversation thanks to one Cam Underwood, because Cam provided us with the breakdown here. And I was like, Aaron Noland. Yeah, I know that guy. I had no idea that Ohio State's in the running. And so Mr. HD saying, what are we going to do now for QB in this class? And it brings up Aaron Noland, Judd Anderson. I don't know.
Yeah. So this is a great question, Mr. HD, because I was waiting for somebody to bring this up because I got the date wrong on Aaron Noland's commitment. I thought I had seen this one date and it was wrong. So if you go back and watch last week, I kept saying April 11th, April 11th, April 11th. I have no idea where I got that from. I swore that's what it was. It's going to be April 8th, as in Sunday, is when Aaron Noland is committing. So keep your eyes out for that. Miami is a finalist. I'm going to push back on the firm thought that there is absolutely no chance that he's coming to Miami, which is the subtext of your question. You know what I mean? Now, I know that, the Acorns have done very well with quarterbacks. I know that they, they recruit at an elite level across the board. We know they've been killing Miami's roster in terms of wide receivers and will apparently do so again with Jeremiah Smith, who's Geno Smith's cousin. Geno Smith, went to Miramar and he lives in all that stuff. But I'm not closing the door on Aaron Noland at all. Yeah, so take that as you will. The thing about it is, if you want one or if you want two in this class, and Judd Anderson is a 6'6" guy, kid from Georgia, Jones County, I believe, was mainly a basketball player, but was transitioning to football, focusing there full time. He's like 6'6", 215. So he's, he was like a big wing, if you will. And he is a newer name on the trail, but his recruitment is increasing. Pretty rapidly. I believe he's supposed to be down here in Miami in the next couple of days, maybe even tomorrow. So that'll be great. And like he was like a mid-major to high major basketball player. Like as I'm on his 247 page, as a sophomore, he was 19 points and 16 boards. So, you know, if you're 6'6", you're probably being listed at 6'7" or 6'8" on your basketball program. Funny story, I'm 6 feet tall and they listed me at 6'5" when I made varsity my sophomore year. And yeah, I went to my coach and said, is there another number 24 Underwood? Because who? Because
They usually round up, not
no,
like
he
by half a
yeah,
foot.
yeah, by half of exactly. And then ran me out there to play defense against in 4s and 5s. They put me in the post just because I have the tough mentality. I grew up in Detroit, obviously nothing free in the paint. You know, shout out to the Pistons from back in the 80s and everything. But they're like, cool, yeah. So like, you don't back down. So I'm like, yeah, but like if I'm going, I remember specifically there were 3 dudes who I guarded who one went to the University of Detroit on a basketball scholarship, and 2 went to Purdue. One to play basketball, and one was a tight end who ended up making the league. He was like 6'7" or 6'8". And I was just like, whatever. Anyways, sorry, that was an aside. Judd Anderson, big time baller, but he's leaving that behind to focus on football, excuse me. So he has probably a little bit of development to go, but I think that the tools are there. If you wanted to kind of extrapolate that out, Ryan Williams, who was at American Heritage before they became American Heritage, won a state championship in 2009 at Miramar. He was a basketball first, pretty much only, well, he was both, but he was a basketball player first. Then he left American Heritage and focused on football at Miramar, ended up getting a scholarship to Memphis and then transferring to Miami and everything. So like there is a path forward for that. But the short story long here is, number one, I am not capitulating anything in terms of Air Noland's recruitment. I'm not going to sit here and just say, well, another team offered him. Look, he visited Clemson, he visited Alabama, he visited Miami, he visited O State. Look, just because another top end team came on to was brought to the on your purview, you know what I mean? Like you became aware of the interest of another top team does not mean that there have not been top teams there all along. So, Mario Cristobal is an elite recruiter. I'm going to hopefully be supported with that, with a commitment from Air Noland, but I'm not going to sit here and just off the top say there's no chance. You know what I mean? Like as though Miami were recruiting the number 1 basketball player in America, which we have done. And like, there's no chance that he's coming here. There's just not, right? That is not the case with, I don't think, any player in this class, but especially Air Noland, who Miami has been after very strongly and continues to recruit. Judd Anderson is a guy who is being looked at potentially for this class. I would still need a blue chipper, even if we did get him. I do prefer Judd Anderson to AJ Hairston from Monarch. However, that was the name I couldn't pick out of the air last week when asked about AJ Hairston, who has a strong arm. I just think that in a few ways he still has room to grow, and I think he would flourish better elsewhere as opposed to the good Mr. Anderson, who is right there again, from Jones County in Gray, Georgia. I know that his ranking is low, and I know that people, if Miami were to miss on Air Noland, and you go back and look at this and you say, well, okay, well, this is a tall, thin kid, and he has this low ranking and everything. Like, he was a basketball player who played some football. He is now leaving basketball to focus on football, and I do believe that matters. So in terms of your off-season work, because like you clearly go straight from football into basketball, so you're not doing as much football. And then, your 7-on-7 stuff, like there's all kinds of things where you either split your time or you focus on other things where you can now lean fully into that. And I believe that he's doing that. So for me, it's still Air Noland. I'm not expecting, but I'm hopeful and optimistic that he will pick Miami on Sunday. And then Judd Anderson and AJ Hairston or anyone else would also be part of that conversation. And obviously, if Air Noland does decide to commit to O State, Clemson, Alabama, or insert other team here because he's being recruited by pretty much everybody in America, then obviously we would have a different conversation about Miami pivoting, because I do not believe that solely getting a Judd Anderson or an AJ Hairston or both of them, I do not believe that would replace the absolute necessity of getting a blue chip quarterback in this recruiting class.
There is not a crystal ball lean on Air Noland in any one direction. So is there any particular reason why there would be conjecture that Ohio State's in the lead?
People being scared, honestly, maybe you're just paying attention to recruiting for the first couple of times and things like that. Aaron Noland has been posting his pictures from all of his visits. And so maybe somebody caught the day that he was wearing scarlet and gray and he put that up on the timeline. You know what I mean? And then like, oh my God, like Aaron Noland, he's and I saw it. It was, Jesus, what day was that? Saturday, Sunday? It was very recently that he posted that pictures. But I'm like, if you go and look at if you go look at his timeline, go through his media, right? He's posting pictures from all of these different places, including, after he went to Miami, a couple days later, he posted a nice, 4-shot triptych thing about that. He's posted, when he was in Alabama, when he was in Columbus, when he was in Clemson, I don't know, but maybe after the Jeremiah Smith conversation from last week, or just the general distaste of we want this player, and then he ends up going to O State, from the past. But I mean, Aaron Noland did, like I said, he did post picture, but he also has posted pictures from other places which are not part of this conversation. But I don't know why. I'm conjecturing as to why Mr. HD, that was Mr. HD who asked that, why he was thinking that, or other people on the timeline as well who have said that.
So when it comes to, I'll put Ohio State and USC probably at the top of the field right now in regards to what the quarterback production has been recently, last 5 or 6 years. Obviously, Dwayne Haskins, Justin Fields, CJ Stroud. We know the Lincoln Riley smorgasbord of Heisman Trophy finalists and winners. How much, it depends on the individual, but obviously I got to think, has a lot to do with the thought that they're going to have a fairly sizable advantage.
Whom?
Ohio State or a USC, but they're not.
Oh, yeah. You want to go play those places, but there have been great quarterbacks or very, very good college quarterbacks and NFL prospects all over the place. You know what I mean?
Sure, all time. But I'm just talking about.
Well, no, I mean even right now, right. So if you look back, but look, if you look back at Georgia, right? I know Stetson Bennett is, Rudy part 2, basically, a little bit more talented. But
well,
I mean, he's a lot more talented than Rudy, yeah. But they had Justin Fields in that room. They had Jacob Eason in that room. Jacob Eason, I think he got drafted 6th or 7th round. I know he didn't end up having the career of a number 1 overall recruit, right? But get elite guys, boom, and they've had those, right? If you look at Tennessee, even and everything. Now I know Hendon Hooker was a hot mess at Virginia Tech, but then he's going to run that. Where they rebranding the Browse offense as Veer and Shoot, and everything, and he developed and he played very, very well. You know what I mean? So you've had other guys in other places. I mean, look.
Oh, absolutely.
Brendan
but I'm
Armstrong.
Talking about a conveyor line.
Oh yeah.
And I'll add Alabama with Tua, Mac Jones, and now
Sure.
Bryce Young.
Absolutely. Right. And if whomever chooses to be the next cog in that machine, it makes sense. Absolutely. And it just goes back to the conversation we often have about, different priorities being different for different people. If Aaron Noland desires that, hey, I want to go somewhere that's been putting out quarterbacks. I'm going to sit in line. I'm going to be the next one. And cool. If he wants to go with whatever Miami is selling of culture and potential, and you'll be the face of this franchise as we step into the next, phase of dominance. And we're building all this. We got this new offensive coordinator, Shannon Dawson, who runs things that are very similar to what you already run in high school. We are elevating the level of talent around. Whether you want to be Clemson, hey, we got Klubnik for a couple of years. You can redshirt, sit behind him, or play forward and redshirt. And then we're going to be great at that. If you whatever it is, you want to go to Texas A&M, which is another place that he's visited. Bobby Petrino, he's like, hey, you're not as athletic and fast as a Lamar Jackson, but I put guys in the league from quarterback. Period. Pointblank.com in the story. And I know it's nay on a decade now, but even if you get done talking to Bobby Petrino in College Station, you go over to the head man's office and Jimbo, who talks so fast. If you think that I talk fast when I get hyped, I honestly challenge you to try to transcribe a Jimbo Fisher press conference. He speaks so fast and there's so much density of content in the words he says. Like I don't know if you ever seen that gif of, I forget, like just typing super duper fast when he was coaching Florida State, and those pressers, and I would get up every morning when I was still teaching, and I would listen to that before I went into work. Boy, I would be like that. But then you can go, like I said, from Petrino's office to Fisher's office, and he'll say, hey, I made Jimbo. Oh, sorry, I made Jabu. What's his name?
Jameis Winston.
Jameis Winston. There. I made Jameis Winston. He made Lamar Jackson and put other guys in the league as well.
E.J. Manuel was a first rounder.
Shouldn't have been, but was.
Yeah.
Right? So even if Aaron Noland was to say, okay, cool, I went to College Station, and you just dropped the names of 3 first rounders and somebody who should be getting paid way more than the Ravens are trying to offer him, hey, I want to go and do that. And there is a reasonable path for that. Like, it doesn't strain reason. It's not like he's going to be going to Eastern Michigan. He's not Imani Bates, who's from Ypsilanti and then, got in trouble somewhere else and he goes back home or whatnot. Like, he's not, it wouldn't be a thing like that. But any of these places to which Aaron Noland could commit, I mean, there's a reasonable case for it. But just going off of like one picture or a set of 4 pictures that he put up on social media like a week and a half before his commitment date, when he's been putting up other photos from other places, including the University of Miami, I think is a bit faulty.
I was framing my question based on the line of succession at those couple places just in a row.
Yeah.
Right now. Now, maybe the better question is focused on Miami and Mario Cristobal's ability to develop that position for the next level and where his selling points are. And as you often state, proof of concept. And before you get to that point, having to sell hope.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and for proof of concept, you're going to honestly at Miami, you're going to be looking at like a handful of plays, literally, and it's going to be a lot of, hey, even like Justin DeTavio just wrote a piece, got his hands on all 22 films. So he looked at when Houston played somebody last year and Shannon Dawson was their offensive coordinator, right? So you can look at that and be like, hey, I did this at Houston with Tank Dell and Clayton Tune at quarterback and all kinds of stuff, right? But imagine you as quarterback who's bigger, faster, stronger, more athletic, and wide receivers who are as big, fast as, well, bigger, but as fast and strong and, technical as Tank Dell, right? So, yeah, it's going to be selling a lot of that. And, I mean, again, you're going to have to sell the fact that you got to come in and work and really lean into that, because I think that, Aaron Noland, would be of a higher rating, recruiting rating than Ja'Carri Brown or Emory Williams. So in terms of recruiting over what's already on the roster, we're trying to elevate that talent. You're going to do that. But like, just because you're a top 50 player and they were Ja'Carri was a top 125, recruit. No, you got to come in and work for it and everything. And you can sell those things. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely looking more on supposition than substance in terms of Miami recruiting Aaron Noland, because all those places have way, 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 way stronger a history of, look at this, we did this with this player here, and Cristobal is like, cool, we can do some things and we're going to do this moving forward. It'd be interesting. I know that he was saying that he's not, after his introductory presser, Mario said that he was not going to mention the name of Oregon. If you go back and watch all the things he says, places we used to be, basically for him and everybody, it's like, places we were and things like that. He eased up off of that at the end of the year because people would ask him directly, hey, so like, at Oregon, this happened. So then he would quote it back, like the 5th grade essay where you put the question stem in according to the text, things like that and whatnot. But I think that he would even kind of have to invoke the name of Oregon and or Houston and or Justin Herbert and or
that's where I was going to go. Yeah.
Because yeah, I mean, if you're looking for the concrete proof at Miami, frankly, in 1 year it doesn't exist. So you're going to have to be very specific and not, especially behind closed doors, you're not going to be able to get away with what he was doing in his pressers all season. It was like, well, yeah, you know what, these other places, or where we used to be, and all the formerly air. Look, Justin Herbert, boom. Now, why wasn't he more of this? Well, we wanted to do this, and there were these constraints, and he wasn't on that level yet, and he had an elbow thing or whatever, and all those things. But we still instilled in him the foundation to scaffold once he got to the league, and you're seeing that, right? So we still got him to a level that enabled him to get to the next level, and then when he got to the next level, unlock further levels. We want to do that and more with you, but yeah, it's going to have to be very pointed of a conversation about other players at other places.
So you're kind of alluding to a certain extent to the sophistication of that particular recruit, because some will say, okay, what do you have for me in regards to what have you done with who? And then Mario Cristobal can roll out Justin Herbert. That might be good enough for a lot of recruits to say, oh, yeah.
It might
He's
be
amazing. He's making a ton of money. Others may roll out a lot what you just said in regards to, well, he didn't exactly show Justin Herbert's skills at Oregon in your offense. And why was that not the case?
We showed some, but not all, and there were reasons for that. But also, we wanted to be sure that we wanted to win games, but put him in the best position to be the most successful he could be at the next level, which is what you're seeing. So we laid that foundation. We helped him with everything. We already coached him up. So when he got there, he was able to integrate those things to his game that were part of the the professional style of offense and whatnot. And with better players across the board, just because professionals are better than college players on the aggregate. All those things were able to come together. But yeah, it was a lot of work that we did already with him in Eugene. And then it kind of, they're like, but yeah, it's going to have to be things like that where that's going to be part of the conversation, not just like, look at this one throw that Tyler Van Dyke or Jakari Brown or Jake Garcia made last year. Respectfully, even with some of the really good throws, that ain't enough.
Cam, you may want to, I don't know, take a drink, turn your head, look the other way.
Oh, Lord.
We honor all the super chats. There we go. Daniel.
Oh, man.
Henry.
That's weird. I have a smudge on my screen, too. Wow.
Yeah.
In the video reticle. That's crazy.
So, Daniel, we appreciate the contribution. I guess I'm going to ask the obvious. I don't know what the point is, but thank you, Daniel. Okay. You raised the name before we went live. And this gets people excited when they hear, okay, who's standing out in this particular name, as you have noted in previous weeks, gets people juiced because they want to hear this name, and it's one Donald Chaney.
Yeah. Before I get to Donald Chaney, I do want to address the question on these. O-State and Miami have been in a lot of recruiting battles lately. He was trying to make a comeback. Look, we're always recruiting who we're recruiting from down here. And, thanks to Urban Meyer, like, you guys are much more a presence down in recruiting in Florida than ever before. Not saying that there were never any guys, but but I mean, I don't know, like I don't know. I won't say that because I might even do it. But years ago, I wrote a thing about Miami recruiting versus Alabama, and the numbers were very close. I think it was Alabama +2 in terms of the recruits that they were both going for. But then the other part of it is, and I put that in there, and people sped over that sentence or that paragraph that I clearly put in there to explain, even if it was like 17-15, or like, I think it was Miami 17, Alabama 16 on the 33 that they were head-to-head recruiting in the previous 5 years at that time. But then look at all the other dudes on the Alabama roster who wouldn't even pick up the phone if Miami called. You know what I mean? If Miami coaches came to their school and the coach called the classroom, "Hi, Mr. Johnson. We have the University of Miami here to see Deontay. Can you send him down to the office?" And Deontay be, "No, I'm good. I don't even need that. I don't even need that. Go ahead. Right? So, and I say that to say the same thing with O-State. Like, even if there was a good head-to-head recruiting type thing going on, although it is definitely skewed way more in your direction. You're talking Johnny Dixon. You're talking Marcus Burke. You're talking insert wide receivers here, right? Like there's plenty more.
Were the
But even if,
Bosas on Miami's radar?
huh?
Were the Bosa brothers on Miami's
They
radar?
were never coming to Miami. I mean, they were on everybody's radar because they went to St. Thomas Aquinas and they were Joey, Nick Bosa, like in order, right? I mean, everybody wanted them, but they're from their whole family, like father, two uncles, grandfather, all played up at O State. There was never a chance that they were going anywhere else. We wanted them. Everybody wanted them. They're like, cool, we're going to follow the family tradition and go do that, be all Americans, go to the league, boom, boom, boom. But that being said, you add them to the list, right? Even if it was close, and it's not, like of the ones that Miami has gone after recently, it has been very much tilted in favor of the Acorns, right? Even if it were as close as the previous thing I was talking about with Alabama, where it's 1 or 2, there's a whole, 50, 60 dudes on that roster who, if Miami did try to recruit back then, cool, thanks, see you. Julian Fleming, I know for a fact that we offered Julian Fleming, right? When he was, I think the first day that we could offer him, junior year. Miami wanted to try to get connected with Julian Fleming, 5-star wide receiver, number 4 recruit in America. No, I'm good. I'm actually not even going to. And he didn't even commit to O State really early. You know what I mean? He went through a process and then he ended up there. And Miami said, hey, can I? No, I'm good. And there's been many other people. So, I mean, there have been battles, but like, even if you take into account the battles that have been had, it's the battles that have not been had because Miami cannot even get a call back or a text back. That's really where you're seeing the lines of demarcation, the stratification in terms of the talent across the roster, whether it's O State, Alabama, Clemson, Georgia, whoever, right? So there's that. In terms of, spring practice, man, Donald Chaney Jr. is really trying to distance himself from the comparison to Robert Burns in terms of being a mythical creature. He is really playing well. Every person who's been to practice, every recap of a practice or a scrimmage or a set, every single one has mentioned number 2 in a positive way. And man, y'all know that I'm a huge Donald Chaney Jr. fan. I would love that. I would love it if he looked like himself, again, finally, if the mythical creature became real, as it were, like, he hasn't really been healthy since sophomore, junior year of high school. He got dinged up, I think at the beginning of his junior year. So he got dinged up through the middle end of his junior year. And then he got hurt as a senior, and then he's gotten hurt after hurt here at Miami. Even when he's gotten on the field some and showed something. But I mean, man, if he is able to really be the Donald Chaney Jr. that we thought we were going to get when we signed him, that's such a huge win. It's like, I mean, that's adding an all-American blue chip recruit because, like, you didn't get anything from him. You know what I mean? So getting something and at the level that he seems to be performing right now will be such a massive win, man. I mean, he's big, he's fast, he's strong, he got hands. He has the physicality to be a good pass protector. I mean, like, he can literally do it all. But the thing about it is, you can't make the club in the tub, and the best ability, is availability, and he has not had that recently. So if he's able to do that, that's such a big boost. That'll also help because Trevante Citizen has reportedly had 1 or 2 or 3 setbacks in his recovery from his season-ending knee injury that he sustained in fall camp last year. So now you're able to really slow the tempo down in terms of Citizen and say, hey, we're really going to be intentional about what we're going to do to get you back to full speed because, like I said, there's been reports there's been, a couple of times that there have been some setbacks. So we're not going to go with the same rate of speed, the same tempo that we have been. And then if you have Donald Chaney in there, then, along with, obviously, Henry Parrish is back and, Mark Fletcher, joining this team as well. But specifically, since you haven't really gotten anything from him since, the COVID season, man, that would be such a big addition for the offense.
Kyler, so let's be accurate with our super chats. I appreciate the super chat. You know that. So the 2 scores, even though you gypped Michigan 2 points on the first score, but anyway, 45-27, and no, it's 42-27. So you gave them an additional point. But regardless, yes, Michigan's won the last 2 games, but Ohio State 0-2 against Michigan. Ohio State's not, well, I guess within context, if you would have stated in the last 2 seasons, Ohio State is 0-2 against Michigan, but Ohio State is not 0-2 against Michigan. But anyway, I know you're citing the last 2 scores. Yes, Michigan has been victorious and won 2 Big Ten championships. So it's an interesting swing in the rivalry. Absolutely. Oh, there was a pretty pointed comment here. Native Kane. Mario is over his head here. No quarterback or receiver commits or D tackle. They going to Florida and Ohio State and Tennessee, not Miami. He did himself in with that 1910 offense. Gaddis runs with kids.
I think that it is reasonable to question if Cristobal can make things work at Miami, right? I, for one, think that he probably will be able to because he was able to do it previously. But if you're a little bit skeptical, I understand. I am not at all concerned about the state of affairs of recruiting in that we only have one recruit committed at this point in time, and it's a kicker. I'm fine with that. That's okay. We're having tons and tons and tons of visitors. We have a very strong recruiting staff. We have an improved recruiting department now being led by Executive Director Stephen Field, as we talked about last week. And I'm not concerned. And if you look back last year, we had the same conversation. Now, there were a couple of carryover commits from when Manny Diaz was here, and then, he took the next year out commits from a couple of guys. But a lot of those guys got their offers pulled, and, because, we have a new staff and we're going to do things our own way. But I think it was I think I said 4th of July, I need to see some huge movement. And the big movement last year was July 12th to 28th, right? So even on my arbitrarily put line in the sand, I was off. And then a couple weeks later, they said, ooh, watch this. And then got to work, right? And a lot of those guys stuck, and then you keep recruiting throughout the, fall and everything. But I'm not at all going to be concerned now because there's way too long to go. And there's still so many guys who are out there. And as I've been saying, even if you're committed somewhere else, you're still on the board for Miami. Miami has gone and hired plenty of coaches up off of their good jobs elsewhere. Where you think, well, and all the conversation, all the questions are because it's easier to see the path. Well, what about this guy who doesn't have a job? What about this guy who doesn't have a job? Don't worry about that. We're going to go get somebody who we want, whether they're employed somewhere else or not. And again, even in terms of Lance Guidry, he had just gotten there to Tulane, and he's a Louisiana native. So he, because he coached at McNeese State. Shout out to Joe Dumars, NBA Detroit Pistons Hall of Famer, who went there and everything. But he had just gone home to his home state, not to the school that he went to or anything, but to a good step up job. Miami came calling and said, "Oh, cool, bye, see ya." Such is the same in the world of recruiting, with very, very, very few exceptions. Well, I won't say that many, but with few exceptions, you're still on the board. This is how flips happen, and you can look at any school, right? Because there's going to be flips away from them and flips to them. That means coaches are recruiting all the time, whether you want to call it behind people's backs or whatever, but they're all fighting for some of the same kids. And I think that that's the case with Miami. So even if you don't get the movement that you want right now in terms of recruiting, the door's not closed at all. So yeah, I'm not worried about it. At this point, on April the 5th, no, not at all. Now, if we're coming down to early signing, which is now basically the signing day, right? Because 88, 90% of blue chip recruits sign. It might even be higher than 90% now, but they signed the first one in December. But if we're there and through there and we have no quarterback and we have no blue chip wide receivers, and we have no defensive linemen of note, where this class is going to, the focus of this year is defensive line. Last year was clearly offensive line. We're still going to get some offensive linemen, probably still going to get some blue chippers. But just like we signed 6 offensive linemen last year, you should be looking at 6 to 8 defensive linemen signing in this class. That, like, Mario knows. He knows what this team needs, right? And this is part of the multi-year process of rebuilding and reshaping this roster. Excuse me. But the time horizon on panic for this recruiting class is way, way, way longer than today. It's way, way further out in the future than that. So, I mean, I get that we all want instant gratification. We want to, okay, well, I heard this kid's name and he's a blue chipper and I want him to sign with Miami today. I, like you, want that to happen. It's not realistic, though. So I would say temper your expectations. You know, woosah, have a Coke and a smile. You know, keep coming back every Wednesday night. We can talk more about, what's happening in the world of recruiting. What's talking with these visits and all these elite junior days and all kinds of things like that. But like to kind of get to a terminal point of frustration and whatnot with the state of recruiting at this point, I get where it comes from, because like FSU and Florida fans, they want to chirp because they have been getting commitments. And hey, good for them, right? But respectfully, I don't want to be Florida, and I don't want to be Florida State, and I don't want to do things the way that they do them. And I know you think, well, we lost by 6 touchdowns to Florida State last year. Yeah, I wanted to beat them. I don't want, like, in that game, but I do not desire to build our program the way that they're building theirs. So then to push back and be like, okay, we don't have these commitments and we want to have what they have right now, then you're ostensibly saying, I want to build the team in the way that they're doing it. I don't want that. I want to build it the way that Mario's building it. And it's going to take, like, again, if 2022 was year 0, because it was, it's going to take this class and another class to really flip this roster entirely. And I'm fine with that. I'm fine with doing the work and structuring it the way that we want to do it, because you looked at the end product last year. Now, I know that Cormine and McClain played Cormine and McClain games and fine. And that dropped us from 4 to 7. And like, if we're upset with a number 7 recruiting class, think about that for a second, right? It's okay. There's no need to panic. There's plenty of time. I get why there is a little bit of unsettling, but literally trust the process, because when we trusted the process last year, had us with the top 5 class, the one kid did the one kid thing, and we end up at number 7. Trust that process. I'm very confident that this is going to be, the floor for this class is probably going to be 7. I'm really looking at a firm top 5 class. And when we come back in December, when we come back 8 months from now and there is a top 5 class, remember what this felt like. And then when we come back a year from now and we might not have any recruits for the 25 class, remember how this is right now, and just let them work the way that they're structuring it, because there's already proof in the pudding from the first signing day when he was only here for a month, and then last year's absent Cormine and McClain's nonsense, right? It'll be okay. So I know that we don't have those things now. I believe that we will have what we need, or most of what we need, along the path of building this program, this roster back the way we want, by the time signing day comes in after.
Yeah, 10 months ago, roughly, you were forecasting what ended up being a top 5 to 10 class in the nation, even though there wasn't the commitment list there currently. When you look at the targets currently, do you give pause to any particular positional units being in great shape and other ones being lacking in regards to where you think they're at with various players?
Well, I will go back to the previous question, wide receiver and defensive line. Just because I need those guys on the roster. I need those guys on the roster real bad. Because Miami, whether it's O-State, Alabama, Clemson, whomever, getting elite wide receivers, since Amon Richards, has literally not happened. You know what I mean? Black Trunks podcast, Cristobal does have to deliver, and I do believe he did deliver in terms of recruiting last year, Cormine and McLean notwithstanding. And hopefully that will continue. But I'm very confident that the recruiting will continue. And yet, the other thing I will say is also quarterback, because quarterback is a singular position, and you got to have, especially after taking only Emory Williams last year. Now, or, in the last class. Now, I know he's on campus and he's going through spring ball, and people say that he looks really good and he could actually have a future here, where he plays, where he's in the conversation to play, as opposed to Peyton Matoka, who was, he's never going to play a meaningful snap in Miami. I mean, like, to the point where, like, Peyton Matoka was passed by a walk-on for garbage time snaps as a scholarship player, right? I do not believe that Emory Williams is of that ilk. I believe that he's going to challenge for, he's going to be a backup quarterback, and he's going to challenge for a starting job, if not win a starting job here in the future. That being said, I still need a blue chip recruit this year, not just a Judd Anderson. You know what I mean? I need a guy with a name. I don't know if you're going to go flip Julian Sand from Alabama. Probably not. Spoiler alert. I don't know if you're going to get Aaron Noland, hopefully on Sunday. We'll see. Things like that. But yeah, I mean, it's really just, it's the positions that everybody knows there's a deficiency on the roster currently. So that's double glaring moving forward, because if you already don't have what you need on the roster, then that means I need more of it in the recruiting class to cover for what I'm already going to lose, because I don't even got what I need. So I need more of it to, make it level out. So I would say those are the positions. But I mean, also, you're looking everywhere, man. Like this whole roster does need to get turned over and upgraded. So yeah, there's that. But I would say, yeah, wide receiver, defensive tackle more than end, because we have done pretty well at ends. But yeah, offensive line, we can always use more. But, wide receiver, quarterback, defensive tackle would be at the top of my list. And then obviously you can go down. I mean, I can rank every single one, but I don't want to do that.
And unless I'm missing something in this comment, I'm not quite getting where Andres is going with Georgia and Alabama. It taking time for them to become powerhouses, when Georgia went to the national championship game in Kirby Smart's second season, and Saban was winning 12 his second season. But right.
Well, I think it means to fully optimize the rosters. You know what I mean? Okay. By, getting it to the place where in your year 5 of your college football video game legacy or dynasty, where it's first rounder after first rounder, one graduates and another superstar All-American slides in with no drop off. They had to elevate the level of talent. Now, I mean, obviously Saban did that in his, first recruiting class, and then Kirby took, that 8 to 12. Well, I mean, there was a lot of top fives, but, mostly like 5 to 12 recruiting that Mark Richt was doing. And he's turned that to 1 to 3 every single year in terms of classes. Like, that's even at the margins, the very high end, that kind of improvement is stark. So I will say, I see where he's saying, just to have every position stacked every year, sub in a different name and a different jersey number, but you go from a Nakobe Dean to I don't even remember the guy's name, but it's the Nakobe Dean, and then that turns into a Jalen Carter, and then Jalen Carter turns into a Noland Smith, who actually even got injured, and then that turns into, Tyson Campbell, who was a guy from down here, a 5-star recruit. He ends up going there and he goes to the league, and that turns into Keely Ringo, who's one of the more athletic guys in the league, and then he's gonna in the country, he's gonna go into the league, and then that turns into the next wave, and that turns into the next wave, and that turns into a Darnell Washington and a Brock Bowers and situation. It will take a couple of years, and it did even take them, Saban and Smart at their respective jobs, a couple of years to get to that level of depth and talent. I think that's what the conversation is, but I think that there are a few intermediary steps from where Miami is and the additional talent needed to continue to bridge that gap to Alabama or Georgia level of loaded rosters.
We are here every Wednesday night, 7 o'clock Eastern time. Please bring a friend. 2 or 10 or 50 would be preferable next time. And if you jumped in here late, all you have to do is watch the rest of the video as soon as it posts, which should be basically immediately. So catch what you missed, and then head on over, of course, to State of the U. What you got there, Cam?
Yeah, man. Like I said, Mike Schiffman did yeoman's work this year, wanting and requesting to take over uh, lead coverage for Hurricanes basketball, men's and women's. So, shout out to him first of all. Please go and read all of the things. I even, like I said, went back and wrote some stuff for the Final Four, which unfortunately didn't go as I predicted or hoped. But there was that. Kappa Kane was actually in Houston covering the Final Four for us, so he wrote a bunch of stuff. Justin Tatavio went back and he's in the film room looking at all 22s and even more. So stateoftheu.com is the website. At the State of the U on all social media. My personal Twitter is at Underwood Sports. Please come on over and fan with us. Please interact with us. I definitely do interact on socials from the website side. So if you're tweeting at us, usually that's me who's there. I will be. I don't know if he's going to take it now. Your South African brethren, Elon, but I will be. And I said this on my personal Twitter account. I will be more than a little displeased if and when he takes the blue check away from the State of the U Twitter account, because I worked for that. It started when it was just Juan Toribio, who now covers the Los Angeles Dodgers for The Athletic, and myself. When we took that account over, we had 1,250 followers, 1250. We're up over like 38,000 now. And like, I had a plan, and it was a lot of time and like content and engagement, and like I had a plan, because like you couldn't buy a check mark, like you had to get to a certain level, and then Twitter would like note that you were of that ilk, right? And then they would say, okay, cool, and then they would bestow upon you, like, so it was like a whole thing. You had to show, improve, and grow organically, and I made, well, it was Juan and I, and then Juan left, and then I continued it and scaled it, and I did all of that. And then he's talking about, I will be a little upset because I put a lot of damn time into that. That's all I'm saying.
Well, that's understandable, but I'm trying to understand this because I have never attempted to get a check mark, and I don't have a huge Twitter following, but I know of people that have smaller Twitter followings than I do that have check marks.
Well, I mean, if you're associated with an outlet or like are noteworthy in some other way, like there are other ways to get it. You know what I mean? Well, especially now, but like you could be noteworthy in other ways, but especially as like a blog website, like a sports entertainment website, like there were definitely like standards and everything. And like I worked my butt off for that. So if he does take that away, I will be more than a little upset because of the hours and hours of my life that I dedicated to social media management to make that happen. But that is neither here nor there. But always at your fingertips, stateoftheu.com, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook at The State of the U. Personal Twitter account is at Underwood Sports. Come holler at me. Come fan with us. Thanks for watching.
Cam, check your email. Everybody else make it back here next next Wednesday night at 7 Eastern.